Vani Shukla. Welcome to Garden and Nature Southwest. Today's episode is about starting vegetable seeds indoors, which, as you know, is not really an absolute necessity these days. You can easily find transplants in any garden center or any nursery you have in your town. So the reasons to start seed indoors might be that you're looking for a particular variety that is not available in your garden center. Or another reason might be that you want to start your plants quite early, as soon as the days start to warm up, or you have some extra frost protection that you can give your plants. And at that early in the season, maybe your garden centers have not started to sell those transplants yet. So that might be a good reason to start them indoors as well. Now, what might not be a good reason to start indoors? Let's say if you're starting your garden, this is the first year, you're just starting your garden, then it may not be worth putting all that effort in doing the seeds indoors for 6 to 8 weeks. Rather, put that energy and all that planning, the mental energy, in preparing your garden, educating yourself about how to have a good ecosystem. So it might be worth putting the time and energy into that rather than starting seeds. The transplants from the nursery or garden center most of the times work okay. The main reason for plants not making it in the garden or not growing successfully in the garden is more often that the garden is not established yet, the ecosystem is not well balanced yet. That is usually the problem. So it may not be worth all that effort when you're just starting your garden. The other scenario why it may not be worth the effort is if the primary goal of doing this indoors is to save money. It may not be worth the effort. If you have a very large garden, then yes, it might help you save some money as well. But for a small residential garden with small beds, it is probably not going to give you that much return. However, the reasons that I mentioned earlier, whether it's for variety or for starting your plants early, those are definitely good enough reasons to start your own plants. And it's definitely something that takes your gardening experience to a new level. So if you're looking for some information, some ideas regarding this topic on what you will need, or if there are any other ways to do it, because there's so many different ways how you can start seeds indoors. Do you need a whole lot of setup, or can you do it with some things that you have at home? Are there some ways to reduce the use of plastic during this process? So you might be able to find some ideas in this episode. So let's start with the growing setup. Do you need a full setup of grow lights and heating mats, trays, growing domes, shelves, all those things? Do you need all of that? Well, it depends on two main things. Do you have a space available in your house where there are large windows? It depends on that, and I'll explain a little bit more. Also depends on whether you yourself are available during the daytime to check on your plants. And I'll explain that also in a little bit more detail. So let's talk about the space first. If you have some place in your house where you have large windows and you're getting some natural light, some direct sunlight will be excellent. So if you're getting that, you may not need grow lights. Now, that depends on how much light. If you're getting about 4 to 6 hours of direct sunlight inside, then you absolutely do not need any grow lights. But let's say if you're getting less than that, let's say you're getting only 1 to 2 hours, then you will need to buy grow lights, at least for supplementing a little bit. Now, if you have no direct sunlight coming in, but it's just, a brightly lit window without any direct sun coming in that case, depends on whether you are available or not to get your plants out every day and give them some sunlight that way. So that will require you being available, you being able to do that during the daytime. If not, then too, grow lights will be absolutely necessary if you're not able to get them out in the sun. Because they will need, as the little seedlings come out, as they germinate, after that they are going to need some sunlight. They are going to need either grow light or direct sunlight to be able to grow healthy. Otherwise, they will become very long and leggy. Now, if you do have a lot of windows, especially if it is south-facing windows, then those are excellent because you will get a lot of direct sunlight during the winter time. Winter or early spring, that is the time you're trying to grow those seedlings for the spring planting. If you have a window on the east side and you get about 4 hours of sunlight from that, that might work as well. But also this place should be a little bit secure where um, either kids or pets are not crashing into the tray while they're playing. So if you have this place where you have direct sunlight and it's a nice secure place, then you will not need grow lights. And I can say that from experience. Every year I grew my plants indoors without any grow lights for about 15 years. This was in my previous home, and we had good direct sunlight through the south-facing windows. I used to place my trays in a location which was close to the door, close to the patio door, and there were multiple windows on the same side. The sun will start coming in, the direct sunlight will start coming in around 8 o'clock in the morning. So I would get about 3.5 or 4 hours of sunlight there. Then it was blocked by outdoor pillars that we had in the patio. And then we will get another hour and a half just before the sunset. And the plants did fine. So I had observed the movement of the sunlight in my room. What would be the best place to get maximum hours of sunlight? I had observed that closely, and based on that, I did that placement. Now, even when I was not home, I knew plants will be getting sunlight. So I was sure of that. And because of this, even though I was not available through the day to check on my plants, I knew the plants will be okay. They will be getting the light, not too much. I made sure they were not getting overheated or anything. They were fine. On the days when I was home early or it was a day off, I would get my plants outdoors for some, natural light and fresh air outside, provided that it was good weather, a nice day outside. In our new location since 2020, even though we have south-facing windows, there's not a good secure place to keep those trays where it would be safe from my dog running into other trays, or due to the furniture placement also, it's just not feasible. So now the only place is a east side glass door. So this gets about 3 hours of sunlight in the morning. What that means is I have to provide a little bit more with the grow lights, especially when I'm not home. If I'm home, I'm able to put them outside. So that's what I mean by availability. If you're available at home and if you're able to do this, if your schedule allows, if your daily routine allows you to keep those trays outside, especially if you don't have many, or if it's easy for you to roll out your cart outside, if it's close by, if it's convenient, the patio or the place that you're moving your plants to, if it's convenient to do that every day, then it will work fine without any grow lights. So I do have grow lights now, but I use it only if I'm not able to put my plants out that day for some reason. Either the weather is bad or I'm not home. In that case, I just turn them on. They will get direct sunlight early in the morning for about 3 hours. And then after that, of course, they have some grow lights. But primarily, I have to say, it is still the natural light that I'm using most of the days. I do put them out at some time. It may not be all the morning hours. Sometimes it's 2 or 3 in the afternoon. They're just getting last couple of hours of sunlight before the sunset. Sometimes I put them out even though there's not much direct sunlight, but they still are able to get that bright outdoor light. It is different from the indoor light for sure. Even when the plants are close to a window, they do not get that much light compared to outdoor light, even in shade. So in other words, the amount of light, we're not talking about direct sunlight, just the natural light, the amount of light a plant will get indoors will always be less than if you were to put it out in the patio. Well, exceptions are always there. I mean, if it's If it's in the patio where it's like deeply shaded by big trees, that's different. All right. Now, other thing you will need is something to cover your seedling tray with. And I'm mentioning this right now because if you have that humidity dome or some sort of cover to put on your trays, please do not leave it on if you're just using the natural light, because it might get too hot inside if there's direct sunlight coming in and you have that plastic cover or the humidity dome on. It might get too hot inside. So I just wanted to mention that, but I'm going to give you a little bit more detail on what kind of dome or cover might work. So of course, your availability and whether you have direct sunlight coming in or not, those will be the two main things to consider to see if you will need the grow lights or not. Now, the other things, of course, are the seed starting trays or any sort of container to put your soil in where you're going to start your seeds. If you look online or in the nursery centers, the garden centers, you will find a lot of these seed starting trays. They are plastic trays with multiple cells, and you put one or two seeds in each cell. These are something that you might have seen in your nursery also when you're buying your transplants. So that is an option. However, that does require a lot of plastic, right? Compared to a flat tray. There's a lot more plastic being used when it's those sort of trays. And even if you buy a good quality one, in a few years, it will probably disintegrate. You will have to throw it in the trash or recycle, but eventually everything ends up in the landfill. So are there some other ways where you can reduce buying new plastic? If not completely avoid using it, but even if you can avoid buying new ones, what can you do? So repurposing the containers that you already have, any grocery containers, yogurt cups and such. I would not necessarily use the egg cartons. They're too small, only for very fine seeds like basil seeds, amaranth. Maybe initially it might be enough, but you will still have to transplant. Once the plants are a little bit bigger, you'll have to transplant it into different containers because the soil that an egg carton can hold is just not too much. There are all sorts of other, creative ways, and eggshells and things like that. Again, needs a lot of time and effort. Rather look for, maybe disposable coffee cups or other disposable food containers. Any kind of food containers will work. Just drill one or two holes, or just cut it out with scissors or a knife, some holes for some good drainage. Now, if you're looking for some more permanent setup, but you want to avoid plastic, avoid buying new plastic, then something that might really work and has worked for me is using soil blocks. With the soil blocks, you will not need any kind of container, because what a soil block is, it's just a block of soil. It's very compacted, tightly compacted block of soil. And when I say soil, it is basically the potting mix, the seed mix that you have. It's very tightly compacted into a cube. There's a soil block maker that you can buy, and I bought this many years ago from Johnny's Seed Company. I believe that's the name. I will double check it and put it in the show notes. It was very good quality. It still is in perfect condition after so many years of use. So this soil block maker makes 4 soil blocks at a time, like 4 cubes of soil at a time. Each block has a little dent in the center where you can drop the seed. But I often drop in the center and also 1 or 2 in the corner also. And then you can just cover it with some seed mix or potting mix on top. These soil blocks are placed directly on a flat tray. The tray can be anything. It could be a plastic tray if you already have bought one, if you have been using something. So that a flat tray, any plastic tray, if you have it, or any metal tray you have lying around, or any wooden tray, anything will work that can hold water. Because when you water the seedlings, you don't want the water leaking outside on your surface, on your counter or your shelf, your table, wherever you're placing the tray. You do not want the water leaking outside. You can even use flat cardboard box if you line it with some plastic bag or something inside to prevent leaking. So with the soil blocks, you can definitely avoid any sort of container use, and you're not going to need any sort of plastic seed tray. I will put some images on the website so that it's a bit more clear what the soil block maker is and what the soil blocks look like. Now, there are a couple of more benefits of the soil block. One is that the plant never gets root bound. Because there's no container outside, the soil block is just sitting freely on the tray. As the plant grows, the roots reach the outer limit of the block, they stop there. They don't just come out in the air and start growing and circling on the block. They can't, they don't. Roots just don't like to grow out in free air and direct light. They will just stop at the limit of the soil block. So it prevents the plant getting root bound, which can happen sometimes in any other sort of containers. The other thing that is good about the soil blocks is when you're ready to plant them, you just pick up the soil block and drop it in the little planting hole that you made in the plant bed. There's no taking the plant out from the container or damaging the roots that way. So it's super easy in that regard. Another benefit that I find is when I'm watering, I know exactly and very reliably if the soil block is completely moist or not. I can see as I put water in the tray, and that's how I water usually, either just a little bit sprinkling from the top when the seeds have not germinated so that the surface is moist. But also I put water directly in the tray, and then the soil blocks just absorb it from the bottom. And I can see the water move up the soil block as it gets moist. It's a nice visual to tell me that they are thoroughly moist and not overwatered or underwatered. So the soil blocks have definitely worked for me for so many years, and I continue to use them. Now, preparing the soil blocks does require a little bit of time. Not a whole lot though, maybe about 1 to 2 hours, all the way from trying to moisten that potting mix, which has been sitting in the bag for, I don't know, a number of months, and it's gotten super dry and you have to take some time to moisten it nicely. So that, and then preparing the soil blocks, maybe about, let's say, 3 to 4 trays, with each tray having about 24 or 36 blocks. So preparing the blocks and then at the end cleaning up all the stuff, all that maybe 1 to 2 hours. So what I do is I just make the soil blocks, put them away, and whenever I have some more time, I will pick up a tray and do the seeding on that tray, do the labeling and everything. So this has definitely worked for me very well, and I don't have to worry about, cleaning out the plastic trays and all that. Now, another way to do it, apart from soil blocks, and again, avoiding the use of plastic trays, is a galvanized tray that I recently found. This is a galvanized tray that has its individual growing cells inside in individual cups, which are also of the same material. These are square cups without any bottom. I find them useful as sort of a supplement because, let's say, I prepared my soil blocks and everything, and 2 weeks later I realized, I quickly want to sow something extra, and at that time I do not have time to prepare the soil blocks. I quickly just put the potting mix in the galvanized tray, and it's ready to go. So for that purpose, I do have some galvanized tray that I recently bought, and so that hopefully would also last me many years. The next thing is the type of potting mix. In my experience, it has not made a huge difference what kind of potting mix or seed mix I have used. I have used the seed mixes that are available specifically for sowing seeds indoors. I've used those. I've used just your regular potting mix. The only thing that I have paid attention to is whether it's organic or not. I try to avoid any sort of synthetic fertilizers right from the beginning, right from the process of sowing seeds. So I just look for organic potting mix. I've used even those, potting mixes, organic potting mixes that have large chunks of wood in it because of the compost that they're adding to this. But I just remove the large pieces of wood or any larger chunks, and I haven't really found any significant difference as far as how the plants do, how much they germinate. I haven't really found any big difference. In the beginning, initial years when I was first starting to sow seeds indoors, I had even made my own potting mix using different kind of recipes that I came across online. And again, none of those made any huge difference either. So any sort of good organic potting mix should be fine. The seed mix, the seed mixes, the fine ones specifically available for this purpose, I do keep one of those, and I use that only for sprinkling on very fine seeds. If there are seeds that are very, very fine, whether it's flowering seeds or vegetable or herb seeds that are super fine. But that bag has been there with me forever, for many years. I use it just rarely. As far as the seeds, you're going to probably try so many different companies depending on the varieties and the kind of vegetables that you want to grow. And after some years, you're going to narrow it down to your favorite ones. Over the years, I did the same. And now I pretty much every year go with Baker heirloom seeds. Also, if there are some seeds that I'm not able to find there, then I get from Tomato Grower Supply Company. Or if there's a particular variety that year that I'm looking for and I'm not able to find at either of these sites, then I might try a new company. I tried Sandia Seed Company this year to buy hat chilies. We have grown over the years multiple different types of chilies, and I love growing chilies. The New Mexico State University, the Chili Pepper Institute, they also have a website and they sell seeds directly from their website. So that is another resource. Now, the only thing that I would recommend to keep in mind is to avoid the seeds treated with pesticides or fungicides. When you are ordering seeds, it will say, or it should say, whether the seeds are untreated or they have been treated, or these are treated seeds. If it doesn't say, you accidentally get some seeds, you do not know if it's treated or not. One of the ways you can tell is if they're like bright colored, pink or green, or some sort of bright color. These are seeds that have been treated. But most of the times, any good company, they do mention that their seeds are not treated. So that would be the only thing that to keep in mind. Now, the other couple of things that you may need is, one is a heating mat. It is not an absolute that you do need a heating mat. However, it makes the germination a little bit faster. Another thing that can help with the seed germination is something to cover on top, a humidity dome, or something else that will work as a humidity dome. Again, you do not want to buy new plastic. Then just look around in your house and see if you have any storage containers, those Sterlites or those Rubbermaid containers, the large ones, anything larger than the tray that you're using. Just invert that container on top. It will give enough room. It will have at least 4 or 5 inches of room above the tray. So it's not like sitting right on top, clogging the tray. But it will have enough room. Even when your plants are above 1 to 2 inch high, there's a little bit room up there. However, these containers are opaque. They are not clear. They're not transparent. So you will definitely have to remove it in the morning so that your plants can get light. Before they have germinated, you can keep it on, but you will have to pay attention to the amount of humidity in. If it gets too moist and too humid inside, you're not checking on them, then the soil might get a little bit of fungus on top. The seeds might rot, so you don't want too much humidity either. One way to provide a little bit of ventilation is just lift them up from the side a little bit, put something underneath, and then so that it's not like completely sitting on a flat surface, and it's like it's not airtight from all sides. If you're using a wire shelf to put your trays in, if the storage box that you're using is much larger than the tray, then there will be some ventilation from the bottom also, because there's a wire shelf underneath. So you will probably come up with some ideas to get some ventilation inside. But once the seeds have germinated, then just remove the container in the morning, early morning, the first thing in the morning, so that they can get some light, whether natural light or grow light. Another idea for an alternative to an actual humidity dome would be like if you've bought a cake from a bakery or a cake shop, they have this clear plastic cover on top, and they're usually quite large depending on the cake size. So those work really well. Or maybe a clear salad box. So they're other things you might find if you look around that are clear rectangular plastic box, and you can cut out some vents on those. That will make it easier for the ventilation inside, and it won't get too humid. If you see a whole lot of water droplets, it's just covered inside with the water droplets, that's definitely the time to remove the cover. So for growing seeds, more important than any of this is the fact that can you check on your seeds on a regular basis? And I find using a timer makes it very reliable, because as soon as my plants have started to germinate, more than 50-60% of the tray has germinated, I start to put out that tray. But the first day that I put them out, I do not put that in direct sunlight. But at the time when I'm putting the tray out, I put my timer on for 30 minutes so that I can go and check on that it's not too breezy or too dry, or the plants are not, or the little seedlings that have just germinated are not getting stressed out. The next day, I might increase that time a little bit more. I might keep them in the direct sunlight, morning hours when the temperature is comfortable. For tomatoes, peppers, any of your summer vegetables, it should be in a very good, comfortable temperature range, around 60 degrees or so, definitely more than 50 degrees if it's not breezy outside. The younger your seedlings are, the more cautious you will need to be. As they grow a little bit bigger and you have already hardened them for some time, then you can leave them out for a few hours, but again, you will be judging that. But each time, what helps is the timer. Because if I forget and I'm late even by an hour, 2 hours, especially at those very early stages, then I might end up damaging those plants. Oh, and another thing that I forgot to mention was, don't forget to label your plants. So if you're using the soil block method or even the containers, you can use stickers, just on the cardstock, just write with a permanent marker and stick it on the container or in front of your tray with the soil blocks. For in front of each column, I put the sticker on. So if in a tray you're going to have multiple different plants, then each container, if you're using separate container, then each container would have a separate sticker. And it's easier than putting those wooden labels in, because those wooden labels, if they're sticking out of the container, then they might get stuck in something and it will disturb the soil and the seeds. So stickers might be easier. Or if you're using soil blocks or something similar, let's say even the galvanized tray with those cells, then I put a sticker in front of each row or column of those cells, or the cells of the galvanized tray, or if it's my soil blocks, then I put the sticker on the tray in front of each of those columns. Now, last thing I want to say, when you're growing your seeds indoors, very important is also to prepare your plant beds outside. Make sure all the preparation is ready before you are ready to plant them outside. Otherwise, all this effort will go waste if you have not prepared your beds, or if you are not ready to protect them from occasional cold nights, very cold breezes, or frost. Then all this effort will go waste. So while you're growing your seeds indoors, also having those beds ready, having the frost protection ready, that is super, super important. So that is all for today, and I will see you soon in the next episode. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.